See, I didn't start this one laughing. Welcome to First Geek Congregation. Today it's going to be a whole... Damn it. You won this round.
You managed a few seconds there. It was nice.
Yeah. Welcome to First Geek Congregation. And today it's going to be a little louder than normal. We're held at the Center of Wichita, which is a LGBT community center with a number of meeting rooms and things like that. Well, the next room over is the bigger room, and right now they're having a meeting. So we're going to have a whole bunch of extra noise seep in here, I think, because every once in a while they do get really loud. I've only been here 15 minutes, and they got loud at least 3 times. So, I apologize if we get droned out or anything along the way, but such things happen. It's supposed to be, by the way, sound deadening wall. Don't think it succeeded.
Well, the doors aren't sound deadening.
No. And
it doesn't help. And of course, I bet you the ceiling just goes right over. I bet you that has a whole dead area with drop-in ceiling. No? Ceilings go all the way up?
Ceiling goes a long ways up, and it's a wood ceiling over there instead of drop ceiling. So I think it goes all the way up. I'm not sure. Now I'm curious. See, you have to quit asking these questions. Because now I want to look.
Yeah. Go first. Oh, sorry.
Anyways, but we're held at the Center of Wichita. If you've never heard of the Center of Wichita, look it up sometimes. thecenterofwichita.org, especially because they have a lot of community things that are important. For instance, the group called Get Connected, which is for LGBT teens to get together and have a safe place to be, and have adults around that can help answer questions, have guided conversations. It's important stuff. Being a teen is hard enough. Being an LGBT teen, even harder. Anyways, today's topic is the Pope. The Pope. Do you know what Pope stands for? Do you know what it means?
The Pope means
Papas.
Papa.
As in dad, father. Originally, now I want to meet the Pope so bad. How you doing, Pops? Anyways, the title. The title is actually just. It originally was just kind of a familiar title because still to this day, Catholic priests are called Father. And as you went in the different rankings, everybody was still just Father. It was an authority thing. The Pope's actually the Bishop of Rome, and the title didn't really come around until about 10th century. It was used a little bit before then as just an honorific. It didn't become a real title until then. There's always a bunch of things. One of the reasons why I want to do this one, it's kind of interesting, is that one we've got a Pope who's, I'm not going to say he's not conservative. More along the lines of he is less conservative than his predecessors by far, than his most recent predecessors. The problem is that there's become this huge split caused by him. You have a bunch of liberal church people, liberal Christians, actually even some non-Christians, who are like, yes, this guy is awesome. And then you have the conservatives who are like, this guy sucks.
How dare you talk against money? Our God.
Great example.
And then I've run into people who are like trying to play off the fact that he's not quite as conservative as other popes by saying things all like, oh, this sort of thing has been around all the time. You should not pay attention. I did. I'm on Facebook. I got in a discussion with this guy. He's all like, oh, no. It's like, this isn't new. This isn't new. La, la, la. He didn't say this at all. He didn't actually say it.
Wow.
Seriously.
That's denial.
Yeah, seriously. No. It's like 6 or 7 popes support him and saying the exact same thing. You guys should pay attention. And I'm like, yeah, no.
Okay, how many people actually know the history of all the popes anyways and their stances?
Well, I mean, if you go back and cherry pick things,
yeah,
you might be able to get. Yeah, but he was like, oh no. It's like the media is blowing it all out of proportion. The media is trying to turn it into something it's not. Yeah. And I'm like, are you actually listening to the words that are coming out of his mouth? Yes, the media is there. Putting up the word. Yeah, no.
Well, and there is some media
There is spin to it, but
hysteria occurring around a guy because
he's actually saying these things.
he's saying these things. What happens is though sometimes they don't give the entire context.
I like your keyblades, by the way. Keyblades.
Oh yeah, that's
Fair case.
this is the papal seal. Nobody's ever seen it before.
Jesus heaven.
Yes, yes, as a matter of fact.
Funky
My
hat.
mushroom of tits.
Oh, Marshall.
I wonder if it's got 3 of them.
Plus the
We
Trinity.
paid extra for that.
You don't know. You do know that the word tits is not necessarily a dirty word.
Right.
There's 3 of them.
Like,
Obviously,
tits and small.
and even little birds.
these
Even little
things.
birds. Because Marshall would never use the sexualized term tits.
In description of the papal seal.
Exactly. There's no way he would have done that.
I am scared of
He's
the
referring
lightning
to the
bolt.
little nubs up here.
The teeth. It's in nipples. I am always on the up and up.
Yes, but it's keys of heaven. Do you know what the origin of the keys of heaven? Keys of heaven. Wow, that's hard.
Well, isn't there like some phrase in the Bible that's like, what's open to you on earth, or what you open on earth will be open in heaven, what you close on earth will be closed in heaven, or something like that.
Fairly close. It's very, very, very close. In fact, actually, depending on how you translate it, that's either exactly right or close to right. Wrote that up there. Let me actually pull it up.
By the way, they're using the projector in there.
You're making fun of me so wet my wall.
No, I'm just letting you know it's ready to go. Don't let them tell you
Oh,
otherwise.
The problem.
People are testing it out for you.
Yeah, there we go. The problem is actually my tool chain, not their stuff. That's been the big problem. I need to change some of the stuff I have,
Cool.
and I have to change a couple pieces of software out, and I have to spend some money on some software, and I have to.
I understand.
Oddly enough,
And I don't want
It
if I
takes time and energy
to.
if
and
I
money.
if I had bought a Mac laptop rather than the little POS PC that I've got there, I have all the software to do this on the Mac. So I have to reinvest in all the software. It happens.
Capitalism.
So
Capitalism.
buy it again.
I heard the best line on an old Family Guy, well, not old, but older Family Guy the other night. The mayor runs into the Mac store or whatever, and he like slams his laptop down, and he's all like, "I bought this apple in here the other day, and there was already a bite taken out of it."
Uh-huh.
It was beautiful.
1619.
Welcome to First Geek Congregation.
Used tits already. And I will give into the keys.
I haven't
To
even
the
put my
king.
purse down yet.
So what?
I haven't even put my purse down yet.
Oh my God, the first reference.
And I will give unto thee the keys of heaven. Whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whoever shall lose, whatever shall lose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Loosed, not loosed, not lost. Loosed.
If you lose that game, you lose it forever.
By the way, this line is why it's kind of fun for me. The movie Dogma really is based because of this.
That line, yeah.
This very line. The idea that whatever we do here reflects it for us, which means theoretically any theology you come up with that's a Christian theology, heaven would have to go with, if that's what it was actually about.
If that's what the line means.
That's really what it was about, but pretty close in a lot of ways. But yes, that's so he gives the keys to the kingdom of heaven to Peter, and then from there on, it kind of passes down over time. And theoretically, anybody who's a pope, regardless of whether or not they're really the pope or whether or not they were an impersonator, theoretically has the keys to heaven. They are, for all intents and purposes, the physical gatekeepers to heaven. Whatever theology they decide that Catholicism should be following is theoretically the rights to get in or not get into heaven. Scary concept when you think about this.
But was it actually given to the popes, or was it just given to Peter?
Well, it was given to Peter. Now, whether or not Peter is allowed to pass this down, that's a different story. It's not like you said, hey, I'm going to give this to you, and I want you to give it to your successor,
Right.
and to his successor, and to his successor. And I want you, don't just pick a guy. You need a really good person. So I want you to have a very mysterious process for this.
Smoke magic ritual.
There's got to be godly intervention, at least two of them.
Minor cuppage.
And so that's called testifying.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta have, you're just trying to crack me up now.
You know it.
He's always trying to crack you up.
I know it's part of a game, and the problem is I fall for it every time. I'm all right with this for the most part. But there's nothing that says that this was something that's supposed to be handed down or anything else. In fact, actually, how many letters from Peter do we have?
I don't know.
No.
I
But
mean,
it's-
even things that we think we have from some people, we're not even sure we have from them because it could have been altered.
Yep. And on top of that, there's really nothing surviving. Well, sort of, kind of nothing surviving from Peter. So there's nothing really that says that Peter set down a set of rules, and this is what shall exist throughout the papacy. Well, throughout, there actually wasn't a term. I'm trying to remember if there was an actual term for his successor beyond the more normal terms they were using for priests at the time. But there was nothing, nobody knows if there was actually any successorship designed into the system off the bat, or whether or not Peter just one day looked at this guy and went, why don't you take over for me? Here's the keys, make sure the place is clean. And,
Major.
We should mess up.
No. So is that where the idea that Peter was letting people into heaven, like some gatekeeper, like a bouncer at the gates of heaven, pearly gates, came about this phrase?
Yes, because the quote, the keys from heaven, if he's the one with the keys to heaven, then he's the one who filters who comes and who doesn't, and who gets, well, depending on your theological standpoint, who gets kicked down to hell, or who gets kicked to purgatory, or what have you from there.
If any of those are real.
Yeah, if purgatory actually existed in the Bible, it wasn't just kind of a vague mention, and whether or not hell was actually a little better defined. So yeah, that's this thing and the pearly gates actually all go together. And that's how you end up with him. And then you end up with papacy because somebody passed it on. And there's,
Ran with it.
yeah.
Where
And
it's like, hey, we've got authority from God now. Woo! Power money. Oh, sorry.
power. Wow.
Yeah.
This is one of the first ones. The papacy at one time had power equal to kings. Not just a king, but kings, plural. They were that powerful. They actually had their own kingdoms. They had their own lands. They had their own cash.
They could get kings kicked off the throne.
Oh, they could. I mean, life and death hung on what they said. They were that powerful. It was actually modern, or not quite modern times, but we're talking 1700s when they really started to fall off from power. And part of it actually was an intentional set of decisions. This wasn't just a matter of they no longer had the power. This was, no, they should not have these powers, should not have lands, should not have, et cetera, which started solving some problems they were having. But they were already starting to lose power at that point. But yeah, oh no, wealth and riches went with it for a very long time. When they started at one end, it was a good thought. We need a leader. And just slowly but surely people will abuse power. And then the next guy abuses it a little more. It sounds like our government. So anyways.
Isn't there an area where it says something like you shouldn't have anyone on earth that you call father, only God?
That's a translation issue.
Is it?
Because it actually could be translated as
I was wondering if that was one of the things that was in dispute.
because really it's rabbi. It's a little bit closer term. It's actually written in Greek time, but roughly it would have been rabbi. Rabbi is just teacher, and you're not to call anybody else teacher. But father is also used as teacher, and particularly in Catholicism and a couple of other. So you ended up with, depending on who was doing the translation. So father sounds like one thing, but actually it's just supposed to just be teacher. It should have stayed here. This, by the way, presents an interesting conundrum for like Messianic Judaism. You're not supposed to call anybody rabbi. How does that work again?
Yeah.
And the Rabbi Richard that I know and where I used to go, he actually had that conversation, with everybody. Basically said, so this leaves me a problem. What does everybody call me? But he still calls him Rabbi Richard. But yeah. Does anybody know our current Pope's name?
Francis.
But don't they have
Francis.
names they get named that aren't their real name?
Yes.
Correct. Pope
He's
Francis
Scottish.
is not his real name. In fact, actually, Francis comes from oh boy. Yes, spell it.
Assis. I don't think. Did I have that wrong?
Yeah, we'll find out.
I've only heard about it a little bit from history. I haven't studied very much.
Well, he's kind of Pope Francis of Assisi is kind of important because he's a Jesuit. Or actually,
Yeah, that's right.
and it says something very important about the current. I say our. I don't necessarily follow the Pope. I mean, I don't.
Well, if he seems to know what the heck he's talking about with Christian doctrine, even if you're not, say, Catholic, you might respect him because he seems to know what he's talking about.
Yeah, and I'll agree with that.
Same, if you're not necessarily, a scientist yourself, but you like science and all of that, you might, respect scientists that seem to.
Right, Neil deGrasse Tyson. I respect the guy.
You can read the science book and go, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. It's not exactly the same, but it's parallel.
I'm going to keep scrolling over here.
I mean, atheists could even go, hey, this guy seems like he's sane. Woo!
By the way, one of the stories I've heard about why the Pope was so important What?
No, this is what I was looking at. Their full name, Pope Francis. Yep, that's true.
His real name, by the way, is would be Jorge Mario Bergoglio. Bergoglio. Thank you.
Bergoglio.
Bergoglio.
Bergoglio. Oh, can't pronounce it.
First of all, he's kind of interesting because he's not European.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's not right. He's from Russia. Well,
Born Paris.
this doesn't make sense. You can't have popes from there. They're gonna be German or Italian or
I pissed off a few people.
Well, it's interesting.
Starting out right.
It's interesting that this guy got where he got, because in a way, he's a bit of a humanist, which is not really common in Catholicism per se. In fact, actually, humanism is looked down upon. Being a Jesuit means that he gave up money, period. It's not that he can't survive on the money he has, but the idea being that is he only gets to have what he needs to live on. That's it. Everything else has to be given away. He believes in simple things. He believes in helping the poor. He believes in very, usually what I, talking with atheist friends, humanist sort of standpoint, which has become lip service in the Catholic Church, unfortunately. The idea.
Golden thrones and shit.
Oh yeah, that
Sorry.
was my favorite. That was one of my favorite things I saw. Is that you had Benedict sitting on the golden throne,
Beside
him,
him.
crimson robes and everything, with the gold embroidery and everything. And then it's like, and then Francis becomes Pope, and then the next image is nice white wooden chair in white robes with no frills, no nothing. It's just like, I like this guy.
Oh, that was one of my immediate reactions. He also stood when being confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
Now this was a thing. Kind of one of those. Can he do that? I guess he can. He's a
Why
Pope.
can't he?
Because
He's got legs.
this always worked because they took the throne. Well, the chair, the throne. They had to sit
The
there.
symbolic throne.
So, one of his first things was to not do that
Mm-hmm.
and to not show up. He has an iron cross on his chest. He does not have the big gold ornate bling. He shows up.
Oh, wait.
Well, it is.
It is, yeah.
Um,
Kind of rolling in this Pope plane. Sorry, but yeah, the red roses and stuff used to be really expensive.
oh yeah.
Oh shit.
And then everything about Papacy. Horribly
Cost
expensive.
money. Oh shit.
Yeah, all of it. I mean, this is a big deal. And everything was made of the finest stuffs. And okay, and here I guess one of the biblical things about him. So the problem I had with this personally, Jesus was the son of a carpenter. He owned very little. Would he have sat on a golden throne?
He chose not to. He was
He would have
born
thrown out.
as a baby in a bunch of
Feeding trough.
animals feeding trough.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's an
We like to
opposite
glorify
end
it and
where
call it a manger, but it was a feeding trough full of straw
yeah,
with
if you
sheep drool in it. Come on.
If you take a throne, like the furthest you can possibly go without being born in the gutter itself, is where he was born.
Yeah.
And
I think
if we
Jesus would have
believe
threw up
he
a
was
little bit of his
God,
mouth sitting in that chair that was in the.
Oh, because
then that was instructive.
yeah, I could not imagine. I could not imagine. It would probably have been a scene similar to the temple. If Jesus pops back up, walks into the Vatican, I don't know, there'd be some bull whips. There would have been some problems.
It would have been like the animated series of Dungeons and Dragons. He just would bring out his hand out, zzz, energy bullwhip. I'm serious. Dungeon Master would have appeared. Oh, you all saved. Help your saving throws. Get out. The Jesus Trask is here.
Nat 20, nat 20, nat 20, nat 20. I think he's cheating.
He doesn't even have to roll. His modifiers are so high, he just takes a 20. Oh.
Anyways, so
I can't believe you actually hit him. Too bad you didn't do any damage. You actually healed him. Ah.
he turned the other cheek. So,
Nice. Special ability. Turn.
anyway, that's why nobody plays. That's why nobody plays Christian Catholic priests in D&D. Turn spell does not work the same.
Good God, I hit you for 14 points of damage. I turn the other cheek. 14 more cards. And I'm dead. I'm dead.
Let's go. So yeah, the very first thing he does is he starts eliminating the money.
Excess.
So this threw a lot of people for a loop. So it suddenly sets up the whole thing.
And I never saw it coming like the Jezebel.
Yeah.
I guess they just thought, once he put the robes on and everything, he'd be like, yeah, go bleed.
This is nice. I can't believe I never did this before.
Wow.
It just doesn't work out, does it? So he ended up, that was the very first thing he did. And so suddenly that just catches everybody off guard. And of course the media, wow, goes over the top of this guy very quickly with his very first speech. I'll tell you the most important thing I think he said so far. This is a very big change in the last couple of weeks.
It was due to a concealed carry permit.
Who am I to judge?
Nice.
Because if you start looking at a lot of the stuff that he's done, it really does kind of fall down into this. However,
Okay, awesome.
media does get it wrong from time to time. What's his opinion on homosexuals?
I don't know.
Usually repeated as being fair in favor of homosexual. Who falls really under who am I to judge? We shouldn't be alienating homosexuals. We should not, etc., etc. However, he actually is against homosexuality entirely. The person is supposed to have open arms for it. But homosexuality as the act and everything. Got in 2010, where he lived was trying to legalize homosexuality. He was one of the people who spoke out against it. That is against God's plan. That is against God's goodness, for lack of a better term. And still, as Pope now, he still maintains this. We're not supposed to stone them. We're not supposed to treat them poorly. We're not supposed to alienate them. We're not supposed to. Actually, one of the terms he used was marginalize. An important term for him because he's for people who are poor and marginalized. But the media reports it all as he loves the gays. Gay
He
people.
loves the game.
That sounded wrong. Sounded wrong.
Have you seen them?
Oh my gosh.
They're
They're just
fabulous.
fancy. That's what they are.
That's the real problem he's got with it. It's all the blame.
Totally.
Anybody will spend $20 on a bottle of shampoo. He's got a severe problem with.
Yeah. So the media reports one thing, and they're not wrong in their reporting. They just don't report the whole story. Now the fun part is, it doesn't matter what he says now, because a lot of conservative elements lose their mind over it too, because they're
Just
the
what
media said about it,
Yeah.
and not what he actually said.
Mhm.
He said, "Love your neighbor." That's what he really said.
Well,
That's what it boiled down to.
that is one of the things that they have a problem with in conservatives.
They want to hate the person too. They don't want to just hate the act.
Yeah, yeah, and I have a hard time actually
I have a
with
problem
his
with that too. But, you know,
with his statement, because he kind of he being somewhat actually scientifically minded, surprisingly, he does have some science behind his thinking at times. He attributes the idea of homosexuality not to just a lifestyle choice or anything like that. This is how the person was born. This is the person. But if the act is wrong, yeah, it gets confusing very quickly. I mean, he could have, with one statement, just basically changed the entire church. He didn't.
Maybe he's trying to baby step them into it, or maybe
Yeah.
he's baby stepping into it.
Well, there may be some truth to that.
because I mean, just putting on the robes, he might be changing himself. You know,
Yeah, you might be right.
because I mean, you go. I mean, if in 2010 he went from against it, very vocally to who am I to judge? That's a small step.
That's a lot of truth to that.
And sometimes people, think that
And
once
you can't-
you're dunked, you're suddenly completely a different person, but you still have some renewing and changing that happen.
And that's a huge step, from homosexuality bad to homosexuality good. And if you do that, you could throw it all out of balance. And
It just seems insane if you change your opinion so quickly anyway.
well, I mean, not just that, but I mean, you might have some horrible backlash, and it might not never work. But he might be trying to play it smart. But then again, I might just try to put words in his mouth.
Well, that's
Might be reading too far
That's the
into it.
problem with somebody like the Pope is that people do.
They're going to scrutinize you and every little thing you do. Why is he having a waffle for breakfast?
Oh, this must mean.
Is it because he's contemplating the multiple pitfalls of humanity and the flaky, bready goodness that is our world? Or is it the grains of no?
you say this. You say this.
No, I know I'm joking, but then I know that
But
people
they
actually do.
Scrutinize what shoes he's wearing.
I'll give you an
Yeah.
example that's kind of interesting because just the waffle. The waffle made me think of matzah. And the traditional thing to have for the afikomen, the Lord's Supper, etc., was matzah. It's unleavened bread. Well, if you ever made unleavened bread, what really happens is that you dough, water, cook, maybe oil, a little oil in there. That's it. And what it does is it turns into a brick. But it turns into a very airy brick because the stuff trapped in the center tends to expand.
Like a pop-over.
Right, but not like bread does, where you have sponginess.
You have multiple holes because that involves needing the air throughout.
Yeah. So
Leavening.
what they do when they make matzah, square.
You punch little bitty holes.
So they're like Cheez-Its, only without the leavening.
The cheese.
Yeah, now I'm curious whether Cheez-Its have leavening in it.
They probably got babies.
Probably. So anyways, they roll them out. The machine presses them,
Here's one with cheese.
and they put holes in it.
Okay.
Now what Cheez-Its?
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry, man.
I should have drew that on orange. Anyways, so they basically have the machine puts holes in it, and the machine when it cooks it close and tight to the stripes that were on it from the first machine that ran it through. So what I've heard is that the stripes represent the stripes when Jesus was struck with the whips, and the holes represents nails pushed through his hands and his feet. And honestly, this is one of this was one of those rare moments where I just nodded my head thinking, yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
Bread.
And I thought about it a while and I realized they didn't make it this way.
Yeah, they didn't make it.
This
machines.
is modern.
Yeah.
Why? So the waffle.
Because you got people reading way too much into it.
Sometimes that is indeed very, very true. It's just, we sometimes find explanations to
Regular bread.
So the Pope eating
The
waffles.
hole in the middle of the cheese it
This-
represents the eye of the needle the camel must pass through to enter into the kingdom of heaven and all its cheesy, unkosher glory. Where St. Peter will say, camel, no. Camel toe.
Okay.
So atheism, because I'm going to skip to the next subject. I'm going to ignore everything Marshall said. And atheism is another one that's been mentioned. They should be our friends. They should be all these things. To the point, I've actually heard it said that Athenians
Athenians.
will also go to heaven. That atheists would also be open in the kingdom of heaven. Well, only sort of did he ever actually say that. He actually, what he said, was the. Actually, I feel like I put it here somewhere. We also sense our closeness to all men and women who, although not identify themselves as followers of any religious tradition, are nonetheless searching for truth, goodness, and beauty, the truth, goodness, and beauty of God. They are our valued allies in the commitment to defining human dignity and building a peaceful coexistence between peoples and safeguarding and caring for creation. So the idea actually is that even atheists are looking for God. That's really what that boils down to. Which means they're not really atheists at that point. If they're, what he did, really, is redefine the term in a way. Honestly, it's almost a political move. He redefined the term just with a set of sentences, so that atheism actually is just people who don't have God looking for God, that are good people. That's really what he did.
Well, it sounds like he's trying to not demonize people because everybody else seems to be good with demonizing people.
Yeah, who am I to judge? Almost all of these things, even when he's kind of flexed things around, who am I to judge? And that's why I like that line, because it seems to do so much throughout everything else he's said. So then, of course, the conservatives picks it up and say that the Pope says atheists are going to heaven. Actually, what he really did say, he did say this, that it wasn't his to decide, and that good people are good people. Okay. Let's see. You know anything that hasn't changed? Just out of curiosity. Haven't changed any stances on abortion. That's still
Contraceptive.
so what?
More contraception.
Not really. Not that he's not that heavily interested in contraception. He hasn't really made a whole lot of maneuvers on that. He hasn't. Women may not be priests still, regardless. There was some interesting statements that oddly enough, women could potentially someday be bishops. You can't be. Now, if anybody, the confusion comes from my favorite person, Paul, having spoken out very specifically in the letters that women could not be teachers. Jesus doesn't say anything about it, but women can't be teachers. And bishops are not teachers. Bishops are administrators. They guide the church. They do a number of things, but they're not teachers. So women can't be teachers. Oh, I mean, except for that whole part where, I don't know, I went to a Catholic school for a while, 1st through 4th grade. The nuns were teachers. So they can't, even more narrow band, they just can't be religious teachers on the subject of religion as part of the church behind the pulpit. He had the opportunity to change it. He didn't at all. Did not touch it. To the point that there was a little bit of an uprising going on. Don't think uprising like people with pitchforks. Think nuns with rulers. That were they were objecting to their stance and on women in the church, and he refused to change it. The conservatives ignored it because it was women anyways, and the liberals, oddly enough, the liberal side of things ignored it too, because they're still stuck on the atheist and homosexual apparently. I don't know.
Well, women are just half the population. What's the problem?
51%. Got to subjugate those, you know. Wish that had ever happened. If you looked at it.
Hush your mouth. Me too.
Wow.
They only know where we sleep. That's all.
I remember we could be killed at any time because we all sleep fairly hard. Women don't. He also hasn't changed anything about the idea of mercy in Jesus. Hasn't changed anything about the rest of the core tenets, really. So that's changed. He's not done anything so radical to turn the church completely upside down. Yeah.
I think he's trying to save it.
I'll be honest. I think you're right. I think that's
It's basically cut itself open and started bleeding everywhere, and everybody's just like, it's the church. And he's just like, maybe we should patch that, and stop sucking so hard. We alienated so many people. Eventually, they're just gonna say, why believe in gods anyway? Or we could, actually follow some of these teachings from Jesus and get some people back in the church. Just saying.
Fill the seats. Get them young. Science.
Let's not ignore everything that exists just because we decided it's so.
God's magic wand. God does not have a magic wand. God is not a magician.
That is actually the statement. I like this statement. This is an interesting statement. Goes against about 3,500 years worth of teaching.
Men deciding that's how God works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ballsy. I mean, I'm going to give this guy some credit on that one, because the idea of creation, we should turn to science to figure out what creation is.
Yeah.
We should turn to
Talking about
science.
how evolution and science is not incompatible with God and religion. Like that.
Yeah. Also means that it requires that Genesis, the beginning of Genesis, does indeed have to be metaphorical.
Mm-hmm.
Well, since it doesn't agree with itself, I can see how that might be a problem.
Yeah.
That's always been a problem for a lot of people dealing with this,
Well, if you're gonna be crazy about it, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna say, oh yeah, well this says this and this says this, and they both exist simultaneously.
It's Schrodinger's Bible.
Exactly.
So,
Sugar
I'm going to hell for that phrase right there, because I'm going to keep it later.
Put that on your tombstone.
Schrodinger's Bible.
Schrodinger's Bible. This is why I'm going down.
I want to teach. I now know. I want to now want a T-shirt that says Schrodinger's Bible on it, and just take and make on the back a list of how some people interpret things differently. Same book, completely different interpretations. Anyways, Oh, you're gonna steal my phrase?
No, I'm gonna give you.
Fine.
I'm giving you credit.
Schrodinger's Bible. But you're right. The whole idea of it. But of course, anytime you say anything about evolution, anytime you say anything about evolution, there is a section of conservatives that lose their shit. And once again, they do. Now the fun part is part of the people that are losing it. See, because if you're Baptist, you can look at the Pope and you can laugh. I got Pope. That's funny. You don't have to listen to that. But if you're Catholic, you've got a problem now. This is your assigned leader. This is, according to doctrine, your God-ordained leader. You have a problem now.
Because you don't want to listen to him because he's bad talking money.
Well, speaking of money, here, let's go with that one.
Sorry, no, go ahead. Continue. I'm derailed you.
Oh, no.
Well, there's that one phrase about seeking God in the heavens too, because you're not supposed to worship the heavens, but you're allowed to look at it for evidence of God's
Presence.
presence, personality. There's a lot of stuff in the Bible that it's kind of interesting that it doesn't actually say evidence, but I don't think they had the word evidence when it was translated because
Well, we didn't have a scientific theory
they
that
kept
far.
using fruit and things like that. But I'm pretty sure that you know the tree by its fruit, and you know God's personality by what you can see with creation and just looking around. There's a lot of searching for evidence in there that's just worded different.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. It really, honestly, at that time frame, you did not have scientifically minded people. You had the Greeks. He's about as close as you got. But you didn't really have scientifically minded people who understood the idea of experimentation, observation, conclusion, theory, law. These things, even the steps in there, these things we take for granted in our modern thinking. They didn't have it, not really. They had the beginning. When you get to the point of the New Testament, you have the germination of those ideas, but they don't really show up because at that time period, there might have been people who were doing it. You don't really see much of it happen. So, environment, because you can put that one under both lists. Which is tied to what Marshall's mentioned a couple of times now. Money.
How can money be bad? How can money be bad? Oh God.
Yeah.
He's making fun of our money. He's making fun of capitalism. No!
I'm not anti-capitalist. I like making money. Personally, I think it's a good thing. However, I'm not allowed to make money to the injury or to the requirement that other people don't get to do the same thing. That's my opinion. I would never make it as a Jesuit. I'm just going to say right now. On the other hand, I don't ever feel that I will someday need a $6 million castle. One's a little excessive. But this
You
guy,
don't need a $6 million castle.
if you ask the founder, Papa John's, he needs an extra.
That
Founder
poor
Papa
man,
John's
he
can
must
fuck
be
himself. You
terrified
don't
of
need
everything.
a $6 million anything.
I can't imagine I cannot imagine.
Anybody who says they need a $6 million anything, unless it's a piece of capital equipment to keep your business running,
See, that I'll agree with. That I'll agree with.
Yeah, I mean,
There's times where that
if you need a hydraulic press to stamp out parts for your business to keep your business and your employees employed, yeah, you need a $6 million something. But if you need a piece of personal equipment or toy or house or something, you don't need a $6 million anything.
Yeah, fortunately, Bugatti Veyron is only 1.2 million. So that you can
Well, okay, that's in the comfortable zone. Yeah, we can all tighten our belts on that one.
we justify the need for that one.
Let's tighten our belts and only get a $1 million McMansion instead of a
There we
$6
go.
million McMansion.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest. I've always wanted to own a house that large.
Yeah.
But on the other hand,
Yeah, see, I'm not saying I would never have a $6 million castle. I'm just saying you don't need one. It falls under the category of want.
well, and the kicker is you don't need one. And if I owned one, part of what I would do with it, I have friends who have been down in life. If I had a place,
Bring them all in.
yeah, exactly. Jeff, wonder kids, you
Seriously.
guys do over there.
If I had that much money, that's what I'd be doing, and I'd buy a great big old plot of land surrounding a nice big old lake, and I would build houses all around it, and we just all live there.
Why
It would
not?
be a great big geek art community, walled against the zombies and people outside.
Seems zombie proliferation group running around in there.
But yeah, environment.
No
No
guns,
environment.
though. Bows.
Basically, boils down to he is of the mind that we are
I wonder
custodian.
imagine everybody with their hands, walking around with their gift bags and stuff, just going,
You ever played Saints Row?
Yes.
Anyways, what other weapons there came to mind?
Yeah, well,
I'm off topic.
Stewards of the environment.
Stewards, yes.
Management.
It's God's gift to us. We're supposed to take care of it.
Yeah.
If we give our
Burn it.
kids a car,
If our kids a car, we want them to wreck it.
right, we want them to take care of it. Keep your car clean, wash it. You're supposed to change your oil. You're supposed to do all these things. These are the lessons that parents try, not that all of them succeed, but try to teach their kids about ownership of something. But religion has become just and when I say conservative, I don't mean conservative religion. I mean conservative political concept that, well, why should we have to take care of it? This is God's problem, not ours. That's really what a lot of people are doing. They don't say that. They don't think that out loud. They don't put that out.
we can't possibly destroy an entire planet.
Right.
God would never allow that to happen. I've heard that before. God would never allow that to happen.
Yeah. On the other hand, we have a hurricane that wipes out.
God would never
Entire
allow.
coast.
God would never allow our home to become unlivable because He loves us so much, and it's too big,
Unfortunately, people are fools.
so I can do anything I want, and we can do anything we want because I've heard people say we only inhabit 17% of the land mass.
It's true.
It is true. Yeah, it is true, but it's true. But then they use that as an extension of we can't possibly destroy everything. We can't possibly affect even a tiny portion of it.
But yet, we have.
And these are the same people who believe in contrails.
We have.
Oh, sorry, no, there's no believing in contrails. Everyone believes in contrails.
Contrails we know contrails.
They're
We can look up
condensation
the sky and
trails.
see.
No, but they believe that they're controlling the weather in our minds.
Yes, because apparently I'm always confused by some of these conspiracy theories. Completely off topic. Completely confused by some of these conspiracy theories because the government is trying to kill us or control us. Makes no sense the government would kill us.
So where their tax money comes.
Right. This makes no sense. None. Okay, control, that makes a sort of sense, but really, wouldn't there be more efficient ways of doing it than spraying the air with clouds?
And wouldn't your foil hat be ineffective
Yeah, I just
against an airborne agent?
no, doesn't make sense to me. So anyways, environment. Environment. So he's basically said we're supposed to be good stewards of the environment.
Revolutionary.
Well, oddly enough,
Should I put my head on backwards when he said that?
because it also goes with God's magic wand statement. There's an interesting thing. This is a reduction of power of God in a way. God is all powerful. God is all knowing. God handles everything for us. This is a set of church dogma that's existed in Catholicism and a number of other religions before. All of these things are always under God's control, 100%. Despite the idea over here of free will, which is debated among a number of people. I personally know people who are anti-free will, that we don't have free will. We are just puppets, which hurts me. Hurts me to try and explain why that would be. You're just trying to prove your free will now, aren't you?
Yeah. Some puppet made me roll my puppet master made me roll a pencil across the desk.
So, but now this is kind of a reduction though of the idea that it means that isn't the case. He's basically doing these things. One of the things that's pissing people off is he's reducing the power of God. I'm not saying he's intentionally attempting to do it. I'm saying he's saying that God does not put his finger at all of these things all of the time.
I don't think he's reducing the power of God. I think he's increasing the responsibility of man.
I agree with
And
you.
that's what I think is pissing people off.
Yeah.
Let's face it, we don't do too well with responsibility apparently. Not as a cultural whole.
We don't want to clean our rooms. We want to play video games.
Exactly. Why should we worry about sorting our garbage so that the recycling goes in the recycling pile? Why should we be worried about this? God's
going to make it go away. God's going to make the Texas-sized chunk of plastic in the Pacific Ocean go away magically.
Just boop.
He'll make bacteria evolve that will eat it. Not that we believe in evolution. Heard that too. Something will come along that will break that down. They stop short of saying evolve. They say something will come along that will take care of that.
Yeah, it's called man.
This is a
Got
planet.
2 legs.
This is a living, breathing planet. Something will come along that will be able to eat and process and digest that plastic if it's there long enough. I just want to smack the faces off of people.
Yeah.
Say, oh yes, guess what? Something will come along, but it's gonna be after us, and it won't be a world we know and like.
Well, and if it's going to evolve in order to eat plastic in the ocean, what's going to stop it from eating plastic everywhere else?
Yeah.
The food that's
Yeah.
packed in plastic? Yeah.
And the baby car seats. I can just imagine someone's baby's car seat disintegrating around the baby while they're driving, taking a turn. No, I know it doesn't happen that quickly, but it's like it would be funny. It'd be like the day after tomorrow.
The entire world,
Be
throughout the
careful
entire
what
world,
you ask
plastics
for.
quits to exist.
See, this is where I get really, really cynical because I don't want the world to stop turning or anything, and I don't want our human world to stop being. But man, the way we're acting, I think it would just be hilarious to watch. I think it'd be hilarious to watch some doomsday scenario play out that was our fault.
Well, the kicker is if you radically change any one given portion of our science or our culture, our entire thing, and I mean when I say radically, I mean do it overnight. For instance, power. We are used to power, electricity in abundance. Remove it. Use electromagnetic pulse.
Yeah.
Wipe out the generators. We're done. 24 hours.
Life as
we
we
know
know
it.
Life as we know it's gone.
Yeah.
Most of us are dead.
Yeah.
Right now, it's fucking cold outside in our portion of the globe. We're gone.
Yeah.
There will be a small number of people who have enough coats and can start a fire on their own and have enough fuel to last out the winter. There'll be a small number of survivors, but then there'll be another winter. and then a summer that they can't cope with the heat, and there'll be small survivors in pockets of the globe. Yeah, you're right. It's just
And this is and
we've adapted to live places that we can't.
we don't even know what our priorities should be.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my first thoughts was, okay, so we lose power. All right, what do I need to do? Well, I need to create power. What do I need to do to create power? Well, I need to power my phone up. I need to wait a minute. Wait a minute.
There's no cell phone
My
towers.
iPhone doesn't need power because there's no commu. Wow,
Yeah, see, that's the first thing people think is that we need power. We need to think of creating power. Why do we need to create
that's
power?
heat, clean water, food.
Heat, clean water, food.
Yep.
Heat, clean water, food.
Yep. So yeah, no, change anyone.
Or if you're a gun nut, you know, it's like, oh, I need bullets.
The only reason you need
Bullets
bullets.
before water.
Yeah.
Because the bullets will get you water.
You know, but that's not what they tell you. They tell you it's to defend their water.
Right.
Uh-huh.
No,
Right.
in the back of their mind, it's bullets will get me water.
And on top of that, a good Christian person who says that they're gonna need those guns to defend their land, their property, their food, and their family. Got a couple of things about Christianity, anyways. Because that whole food
You're
thing,
supposed to give people who need it.
there's a number of things here that are just completely forgotten in there. I always have. I like guns. I like guns. I grew up hunting. Grew up shooting. All these things. I do not own a handgun. Probably won't anytime soon. But if I do, it's for sport. And it'll be something ludicrous, like a Smith & Wesson 500. Big guns. But I also know it'll sit in a safe because I'm not going to use one to, say, for instance, defend my car. That's stuff. I don't need to kill people over stuff. Makes no sense. But yet, so many people I've talked to who own guns, it's to protect their house and their stuff.
Yeah, people ask me, you know, so well, what will you do if someone comes at you with a gun? I guess they're going to shoot me. If they're intent on shooting me, I
If
guess
they're
they're going to
gonna
shoot me.
shoot you,
They're either going to take my
shoot you
stuff.
from way back here.
Yeah.
They're not gonna come
Yeah,
at you.
if they're going to shoot me, they're going to shoot me. They're either going to A, get my stuff, or they're going to shoot me. Well, they're going to hurt you. Well, I got a bat too, you know. I mean, if they're going to shoot me, they're going to shoot me. They're not going to warn me about it, you know.
No, absolutely not. I'm gonna shoot you now.
Yeah.
That's not.
Hey, do what I want, or I'm going to shoot you. No, it doesn't work that way. You're going to shoot me and then do what you want to do. Because if you, I'm sorry,
No.
we won't devolve into guns.
I mentioned he's a Jesuit. So one of their big focuses is poverty. Now, poverty, some people define it a little bit differently. Here in America, we have different levels of poverty. We have the poverty line. We have the idea that there are people who live and survive below the poverty line. That's not necessarily what this guy talks about. What he's most concerned about is those who don't survive below that line. He's talking about the people who are on the street, the people who do not have food, the people who do not have the basic necessities of life. I wish one of us in the room was a multimillionaire because I could say, then we are supposed to provide. Found a multimillionaire. We are supposed to provide for those people. Unfortunately, I'm assuming you guys are probably about the same shape as me, which is, hey, you got some money, and we pay the bills,
And buy some food and some gas to get back to work to make more money. And
so we are not necessarily in defiance of the things that he's thinking and wanting, but what he's saying is there's so many people who have so much. There's so many people who need very little, but they need it. It's not the $6 million McMansion. It's not any of these things. What they need: food, shelter, clothes. Very simple basics of life. And we have people who say that we shouldn't provide those anymore. Those people are lazy. Those people should be doing this. Those people should be doing that. But never once do these people say,
I've already got mine. Why shouldn't I? help them.
Yeah. And needless to say,
Oh, and I'm a Christian. Oh, I go to church every day, or I go to church every week. But I'm not gonna help you.
and needless to say, poverty ends up being an issue for a number of people. On the conservative side, because it means expansion of welfare and the raising of taxes to make it happen. Theoretically, we shouldn't even need to raise taxes to make it happen. If we're truly, like people, many people say, a Christian nation,
Mhm.
we are not.
Well, that's proof that we're not.
Yeah.
Basically, if we were a Christian nation, this wouldn't be an issue.
No, absolutely
We
not.
have so many people that do have McMansions.
Yeah.
You,
No,
If
that-
everybody
you
who
don't
said
need a
they were
$15,000
Christian,
granite countertop.
were spending their money where their mouth is.
Hmm?
Yeah.
You don't need a $15,000 granite countertop. You don't. You don't.
Well,
What?
and you
Not
don't
being
necessarily need to
Imagine how
get a
many
whole
people I
bunch of
could have
people to
fed.
go protest, something versus getting a whole bunch of people to go, help people more directly. I mean, there's a difference between, going and screaming at people and going and helping them. And
Yeah.
one seems to be more popular than the other.
Well, we like to be angry. I mean, there's really a lot of
It's
ways.
fine.
Yeah, we like to be angry. And one of the things I like about here, where we're at, building wise, is that Equality Kansas is in it. Equality Kansas is the GLBT. Go after the legislators group. Do they spend their time encouraging people to stand out front and yelling and screaming? And no, they encourage action. Yelling and screaming, you might as well be doing it on Facebook.
Mhm.
For all the effect it has a lot of times, you might as well be doing it on Facebook. On the other hand, this is one of those problems that action could solve it. Could be solved. In fact, actually, I've got a friend of mine who just got back from the UN about 3 weeks ago, I want to say, that a lot of the colleges are now getting together and trying to actually put action into play to make improvements upon that. Not necessarily on the money portion of it, but at least on food. Yes.
Another Family Guy reference. Stewie goes back in time and chick gives guns to the Indians, so the Indians defeat the white man, and it's an Indian country, and everything, and all remaining white people are on reservations, and the Indian guys are driving by, and one of them tries to hand some money to some white guys, sitting on the curb, and don't give him that. He's just gonna spend it all on deviled eggs. Deviled eggs.
Wow. One thing almost never mentioned in the press.
His stance on extreme yoga,
Extreme
hot yoga.
slavery.
Slavery. Very. Standing here in America, this sounds like a hard statement to make. He's very against slavery.
It still goes on.
It still goes on.
It still goes on.
A lot.
And actually, I've got friends that are like Jennifer White, who is ICT SOS. That part of what they work against is things like trafficking and slavery. Still happens in the US, it still happens worldwide. He wants to, it's not just like, hey, I want to say slavery is bad. He is actively trying to work with other religions, other groups, et cetera, to try and put an end to slavery, period, by 2020. This isn't just, a lot of these things are just statements. This one is a call to action. That one doesn't really get picked up in the media. Not really.
It requires you to do something.
And I think you're right. I think that's part of the problem. He wants you to get up off your butt and do something, and well, we just can't be bothered to do that,
We're Christians, in America.
Okay, one of my favorite ones. Because to me, this has always been anti-biblical. 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 Because I could point out lines, and I still don't know where they get. Catholic priests are not allowed to be married and have children. Actually, let me explain further. They're not allowed to be married and have sex. They have a vow of celibacy.
Yeah, I wondered where that came from.
Well, it actually comes from it comes from Paul to a certain degree. See, if you go Old Testament and you go like Thessalonians.
There is a part where he's like, well, if somebody can get away with not having a wife, then that's good, or something like that.
Well, and he
But
also
it sounds like he was in a situation where the shit was about to hit the fan, and that, you know, getting married was probably a dangerous thing to do at
Paul
the time.
Paul actually has a couple of things that he talks about that in the various letters. Keep in mind that over the years he mellowed on the issue of sexuality. But at one point, it basically boiled down to, and this is paraphrasing, get married if you have to, because that way you're no longer sinning. That was the only reason. Not because there's any joy or love or anything else, just to prevent you from sinning. You also had another one that basically boiled down to you might as well cut it off. This, by the way, did give rise for a short period of time to a couple of sects that did that.
They didn't survive, though, because you can't survive without children.
However, all fairness, it depends on how you execute it, because if Catholic priests cannot have children, priesthood also continues on. So.
Well, they didn't make the layman be, you know, so.
Say it yourself.
He shows an interesting. He shows an interesting flexibility on the idea. Basically boils down to, I don't think we're going to change anything right now, but there's no reason why we couldn't. There's nothing there's nothing that would prevent us from, let's see if I can find the exact thing. It is a matter of discipline, not of faith. It can change. For the moment, I am in favor of maintaining celibacy with all its pros and cons, because we have 10 centuries of good experience rather than failures. Tradition has weight or validity. In the list of churches here, priests can be married, but the bishops have to be celibate. If, hypothetically, Western Catholicism were to review the issue of celibacy, I would think it would do so for cultural reasons, as in the East, not so much as a universal option. But we're still at the spot. He emphasized, at the meantime, the rule must be strictly adhered to, and any priest who cannot obey it has to leave the ministry. So basically, if you can't keep your pants, you can't be a father still. But the idea being that this is a traditional thing. Nothing says it has to be this way. And if reviewed, maybe it could change. He's one of the first ones, but not now. He's one of the first ones in a very long time to make any noises about this idea. And it's kind of a big deal, because if you had a priesthood that had kids and things like this,
You might actually know how people function in the real world.
right, you also might have less problem with
Molesting children?
yes,
Extramarital thingy bopper.
because his, to go along with slavery and a couple other things, is a zero tolerance thing. He got, he kind of got handed a shitty stick over this thing. There's just, all of these abuse cases over the years. People have abused their power with kids. And, there's always the altar boy jokes. Always altar boy jokes. But actually, this goes back a very, very long time. It also occurred with the nuns, ranging from relations with the fathers to rape and things like this. It happened to members of the various churches, not just the altar boys. The only reason why it comes up in altar boys is because it's the one group that they have the most exposure to with nobody else around nowadays. But it's happened in the church for a very long time. So he's got this long history of stuff, and he's trying to put his foot down and say, no more. Surprisingly, it's one of the few issues nobody has said, well, he's wrong because.
Well, if they would be shouted down.
And I am thankful. I am thankful that nobody has stood up and said, you know, really, I think he's wrong on this issue because I am for rape and I am for molesting of children.
Over my
There might
cold,
actually-
dead wiener.
There might actually be a chance of sanity in our culture after all.
In the most extreme part.
In the most extreme part, because we can at least agree on that, or at least publicly agree on. I'm sorry, I know some people have got to be
We agree to disagree.
Yeah, there's a statement that sucks. He's also against capital punishment. Why can't our societies find better ways to do things than kill people? That's what it boils down to. He's against abortion. He's also, though, one of the things I like about him, yeah, he's against abortion. Well, then, okay, I can understand his biblical stance on it. I can see the theology behind it. The problem is that the Catholic Church also had a problem with unwed mothers. Now, I am not for baptizing children, you know, because they had no say in this. There's no choice. But the Catholic Church, very specifically, a lot of, especially Western churches, would not baptize an unwed mother's child. Now, keep in mind, this is a very important thing to somebody who is Catholic. This is a major tenet of the belief. And they deny them simply because they're unmarried. At the same time, on the other end of the spectrum, they don't support, if they don't support, you know, if they're anti-abortion, then that leaves the mother in a situation where she can just basically no longer be part of the church, period. None whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And they were apparently fine with this. A lot of the
Well,
Western
they're
churches.
women. I mean, they don't care.
We'll figure that way out. I should also point out, I mentioned one thing he was certain to say, because it's a very conservative stance when it comes to women teaching. You know, they're not supposed to teach, period. That's what it boils down to. They're not supposed to be religious teachers. They're obeying there. He also, and it's kind of a confusing set of statements, talks about how important women are to the church, though. That women are key and important to the church. They never really actually kind of.
But he doesn't say how, right? They're just
Yeah,
like
they don't
decorative.
They bring
They bring light to
You
the
brighten
church.
the
but-
room tremendously.
Yeah, that.
one of the most political statements he's made. Because it doesn't really say anything. But and of course, the other one that separates, that the press uses to separate him from other popes. Interfaith dialogues. Everybody has a stance, a say, an idea, what they believe God to be. Catholics have theirs. It basically boils down to we have a current pope that thinks that we should all be able to get along. It's more important for us to be peaceful with each other, to love our neighbors, than to condemn them for being Jews or Muslims or et cetera, et cetera. And the press jumped on this and thought it was a great idea. It's actually not a new idea among the popes. It's actually been a pretty common idea for quite a while now, because after we figured out we're not really supposed to kill other people in large groups, then you can no longer vilify them and say that they're wrong and that they must be eliminated. You also can't say that they're wrong and we must be converted, because unfortunately conversion in association with Catholicism tend to come with a sword involved. There's some history there that they've done a lot of work to try and get rid of, not necessarily get rid of, to rise above. So anyways, he's mentioned the idea of other religions and interfaith dialogues, and he has attended, for instance, Rosh Hashanah. He's had dialogues with a number of the Muslim leadership, all these things. But it really, actually, it wasn't anything new. And he hasn't really done anything new in that area. Probably the only thing that threw into that area was the addition of atheism as if it were a religion. It's just another group. And that's about it. But the press really, really liked it and thought he was a great guy because of it. But it's the weight of what already has happened. You know, everybody before him did the same thing. Oh, wow. See, I'm out of content now. I'm out of content. It is 3:40 and I'm out of content. Buffering.
You have nothing to buffer.
Actually, I had other stuff I could get into, but we actually jumped. There was some more intro stuff that I could have done and that jumped over. Because the truth is, a lot of it doesn't matter. The idea of what the dogma behind the existence of the Pope is, that's kind of important. But a history of the popes, not really important. Not the thing. Odd side things in here, like liberation theology, et cetera, basically he supports having a big church still. Liberation theology is the idea that you break them all into pieces. Yeah, so anybody got any thoughts to add?
I'm watching Borgia.
Watching what?
Borgia.
Borgia. If you say it slower,
Borgia.
I still won't know what it is.
Oh, it's like a TV show based on the Borgia popes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. It's probably not very accurate, but pretty neat.
Okay, cool. I tend to avoid anything that's religion and not print, because it seems to be. I'll probably tell you what really got me was the History Channel doing a series on the Bible, and eventually having to turn off the TV because
Jesus was riding a large tarantula with a laser.
it was just shy. It was just shy of aliens having created the Bible, and a number of things like this. And I'm like, okay, look, it's not that I have a problem with a different opinion or a different source than what my opinion is. I want to know if I'm wrong. They were just pulling in some really weird stuff from left field, and it's like, do you have any basis for? Is there any? Because one of the.
I'd like to see her footnotes.
Yes. Could you give me hyperlinks on all that?
These
So I can
cover the third Harry Potter reveals.
In the Bible.
There's a great example of that, and it actually still happens even in print stuff. There's a great article, an anthropology paper come out that basically boiled down to they pretty certain they know where Jesus was condemned at, where he was sentenced. Now, there's not a whole lot of biblical information to go from. There's not a whole lot of historical information on what happened, where it happened, and all this good stuff. So I really So I read this thing, and the amount of archaeology a lot of times does take some jumps and some leaps when it's not supposed to. Usually it's
Well, usually when archaeology ends up with biblical things, they just jump right off the cliff. It's like no parachute or anything.
I'd heard it once said that archaeology was actually developed to try and disprove the Bible. I do not believe that actually.
I think it was trying to prove it.
I mean, it's
Because
hard.
they jump on
We found a
everything.
piece of wood.
We found a giant. It was a carving that was specifically made to fool people. You know, there's a lot of biblical archaeology that was just bull crap.
Oh yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
people could get people they could charge money so that they come see these artifacts.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry.
No. That's great. And actually, in this article, I read it, and there was nothing. There really was no substance. There was no substance. I could not, for the life of me, figure out how they made this jump from reading that there was an arch right here, and that it was so generic of a description. Couldn't have been. On the other hand, they have had things that every once in a while are kind of interesting, like, hey, we think we figure out where King David was at. Da 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 da.
And this is where he stopped for a corn dog.
No, because corn dogs aren't kosher. They always told us to eat
Kosher dogs.
kosher
They
dogs.
make kosher dogs.
Yes, they do. Hebrew National's not bad, but Nathan's is pretty good.
A time traveling corn dog.
Oh, open
This
the
sounds like-
rifts of time and space, and a corn dog goes straight into his mouth. and
That's
he's
what the
staring
man
at the ground.
was. It was
Oh.
corn dogs from heaven. Sorry. I'm just
Time traveling, actually going really backwards. Time traveling corn dog makes me think that it would be a Cartoon Network thing at some point.
well, sometimes with those articles,
Hopefully,
it
the
feels like
placement of a hot time traveling corn dog would be very precise.
To the left, up, oh,
Down.
perfect.
Down. Yes, hopefully they would not be off with that greasy hot corn dog.
Yeah.
Bong.
That's just not right. That's not right.
By design.
So, yeah, the Pope thing is an interesting thing. One of the things that I found, I'm not Catholic at all. I've gone to like 2 Catholic services, I think. I went to a marriage and I went with you at some point. But
Trying to turn you into a Catholic.
so anyway,
Always wash your hands in the baptismal font as you leave, just to make sure you didn't get any Catholic on you. So.
but basically, I haven't done a lot of study of that, so almost everything I know about the Catholic Church is from history. You know, it's from stuff like Pope Innocent or whatever, saying that it's okay to take slaves of the Native Americans if they're cannibals, because cannibalism is a crime against humanity or something. Simultaneously, while being aware of the transubstantiation doctrine, because I watched Dogma, where they actually believe that Jesus wasn't talking figuratively, that
It's
this
literal.
is literally his body that you're begging for people to eat, and his blood that you're having people drink.
And there is some cannibalistic jokes to be made with that one.
As long as they're fine, young, upstanding people.
Wow. There's your 1990s joke. But actually, what's interesting though is with the current Pope talking about things like creation and evolution, what appears in the Bible essentially being nothing more than metaphor. Transubstantiation becomes a risk because the more metaphor you have in the Bible, the more other things could be metaphors too.
Yeah, I mean, God that told people not to eat people in certain areas was okay with them, you eating him.
Don't eat people in certain areas.
don't. Oh,
I saw that coming.
well, and it's kind of funny. There's a lot of sarcasm in the Bible. There's a lot of hilarious areas, like that one time where there was that what was it, Elijah or one of the prophets with the contest with the other guy, and it was like, yeah, go ahead, call loud. Your God must be busy right now. Keep talking or blah 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 or blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, well, you can just see that happening, right?
No, there's actually a spot in there that I don't know why I like this phrase. I love the phrasing, even though it's kind of horribly translated. It boils down to, if you want to follow a non-God, I'll make you a non-people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, come on, tell me God didn't have a sense of humor at that point.
He totally did. Pretty
But
much
I'm not
totally
supposed to
for-
have. I'm not supposed to have a sense of humor about it, apparently.
Well, only if you're, well, basically, I think that even Jesus said some really funny things. But if you don't see that anything could be, that there are stretches, that there are humorous spots, that there are.
You may have taken his marker back out.
I'm sorry.
Nope. I'll tell you what. I finally found out what the next week's is going to be.
All
That's
right.
what it is.
Gordon, Commissioner Gordon,
No.
God comedian.
And that's actually very topical right now, given what happened in France and all that
Yeah.
good stuff. That's the first time around that's happened. But
Yeah.
Wait, what happened?
Hmm?
Did I miss something?
Yeah. 12 people were killed. The magazine in France is Charlie, starts with an H. I should know the last name, I've forgotten already. Basically, it's a satire magazine.
Okay.
Does a lot of making fun of everything. And actually, for those who have never heard of the magazine before, if you actually start skimming through it, you can see why some people get offended. It's racist. It is literally anti-everything. Doesn't matter who or what it is. They're really going to make fun of it, and that's what they excel at. Well, they also made fun of Muslims and Muhammad and a number of things like that. And they, of course, drawing a cartoon of Muhammad is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
3 people went in and killed 12 people, and killed a cop on the way in. Yeah, it was, and then before it was all done and over with, they split up into 2 groups and took hostages in a. One of them was in a basically grocery store type setup, a market. I'm trying to remember what the other one was. Was it airport? I don't remember. Anyways, 5 people died there at the market, and I'm trying to remember how many people got injured or killed in the other one before they finally took them out. But they are supposedly, well, they unto themselves had made noises about being essentially Muslim extremists, that they were attacking them for God.
Religious reasons.
Yeah, because they had done these things to be offensive to Muhammad. So people are, our sense of humor is apparently getting worse. We think it's okay to kill people because they mock something. So next week, bring your best jokes. Hebdo. Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's prison.
More president.
But they made fun of everything and everyone, and it's unfortunate. It marks a continuation of stuff that had happened prior to this. That love
Plus 4K.
I don't know what it is. One of them's to somebody from Charlie Hebdo, and the other one's Muslim.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and actually, those are the cover images. Those are not the truly offensive.
Right.
Look at them, some of
so
the
this is like the Mad magazine of
of politics and yeah, it's
That's a good one.
oh, wow,
I know.
wow.
We're not gonna break in and kill people for that.
No. However, we may cause coronaries.
Let's put it up.
No.
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 So there's a limit. So anyways, next week, bring your best. Bring your best. Bring your best examples of our lack of sense of humor, but also bring your best jokes. Bring your best religious jokes, particularly of our own religious choices. Because I am quick to always point out that I follow an invisible guy in the sky. There's nothing reasonable about what I follow for religion. So I find it to be fun. And I think everybody should have a sense of humor about their faith. So let's bring some humor to it. So buy a camera out there.
Humble things, one of the things of humility is, not taking yourself that serious.
Yes. I don't think we'll go.
If you can't laugh at yourself, you're probably a little arrogant.
Well, we're bad at arrogance anyways. I mean, as humans, period. We believe ourselves to be better than everybody else. We still